My thumb hovered over the button that said Confirm Purchase, and the number beside it looked wrong, like a mistake the screen refused to correct. 40,000 coins. Real money for something I could not hold, something I could not return once I tapped it. The room stayed quiet, but my chest felt loud. I watched the total again, trying to make it shrink by starring. It did not. It waited for me to decide if I was generous or just desperate in a clean, digital way. I tapped it anyway. The confirmation loaded so fast it felt like the website had been expecting me. The coins appeared at the top of the screen like a small crown I did not deserve. For a second, I felt heat in my face, the same kind I got when someone looked at me too long in real life, except no one had looked at me. No one had seen it happen. It was only me and a glowing number, and a decision I could not explain out loud without sounding strange. I had always been the type of person who stayed quiet until the moment passed. In a room full of people, I had been present but not connected. I listened. I nodded. I smiled when it was expected. Then I went home and replayed every sentence I did not say, every chance I let die, because it felt safer to do nothing than to do the wrong thing. Online, the rules felt clearer. I did not have to time my voice. I did not have to hold eye contact or guess when to stop talking. I could read a post 10 times before I replied. I could choose to say nothing and no one noticed. That was the part that scared me most and comforted me at the same time. Reddit became the place where I existed without being seen. Late at night, the world outside my window stayed dark and still, but my screen stayed alive. It was a stream of strangers showing pieces of themselves. People admitted fear. People shared small wins. People told jokes that landed like a soft hit of air. I scrolled until my eyes burned, not because I loved the content, but because it felt like sitting in the back of a crowded room where no one would ask my name. Sometimes I wanted to reach out, not in a big way, just a small act that said, "I see you." I knew how much that meant because I wanted it too, but comments felt risky. Words could be misunderstood. A simple sentence could start an argument or invite questions I could not handle. Even an honest compliment could lead to a conversation, and conversations were where I failed. That was why awards made sense to me. An award was clean. It was one click. It did not demand more. It could not stutter or come out wrong. It was a clear signal that I supported someone, that I thought their post mattered, without me having to stand there and prove I belonged in the exchange. It was kindness with a wall between us, and I hated myself a little for needing that wall. At first, I only used the free ones, the tiny icons that felt like leaving a coin on a table and walking away before anyone noticed. I told myself that was enough. I told myself I did not need to spend money to be a good person. But the more I watched people open up, the more I saw how much pain and effort was hidden in casual posts, the more I felt like my silent presence was not enough. I was taking comfort from strangers every night and giving nothing back. The thought did not arrive as a dramatic idea. It arrived as a simple question that kept repeating. If I could not show up for people in real life, could I at least show up here? If I could not look someone in the eyes and say, "I am glad you are here," could I send that message through a badge on a screen? That was when my quiet routine started to shift into something else. Offline felt hard, like every interaction had sharp edges. Online felt manageable, like I could be careful and still be real. The situation stayed simple in my mind. Outside, I froze. Here, I could move. And with that new number of coins sitting at the top of my screen, the next thought turned sharp and dangerous, like a plan forming itself. What if I could brighten someone's day with one click? I learned that a short thank you could hit me harder than it should have. It started small. I gave a silver award to a stranger who posted about passing a difficult exam. I did not comment. I did not even upvote with any confidence. I only clicked the award and watched the icon appear under their words like a quiet hand on a shoulder. A few minutes later, they edited their post and added a line in caps. "Thank you for the award." It was not even directed at me by name, but my stomach tightened like I had been called out in a good way. In real life, I could not create moments like that. If someone told me they had a hard day, I hesitated too long. I worried my voice would sound fake. I worried my face would look wrong. I worried they would think I was trying to get something. So I said something plain and safe, and then I walked away feeling useless. My kindness never landed clean. It always felt like it arrived late, or it came with awkward silence attached. On Reddit, the output matched the intention. I clicked a button and the message was delivered exactly as designed. No shaking hands, no wrong tone, no need to keep talking after. If the person felt seen for even 1 second, I succeeded. That word mattered to me more than I wanted to admit. Succeeded. I chased that feeling carefully at first. I looked for posts that sounded like someone trying to stay afloat. A story about quitting an addiction. A photo of a cheap meal someone cooked because they had no money. A confession from a person who felt invisible at work. I did not pick the most popular posts. I picked the ones that felt like they might disappear without anyone noticing. When I awarded them, something happened inside me that I could not get anywhere else. It was not excitement. It was not pride. It was more like relief, like I had finally done the simplest part of being human without failing at it. Then the replies started coming in. Sometimes it was a message in my inbox. Hey, thanks. That actually made my night. Sometimes it was an edit on the post. Wow, my first gold. Thank you, stranger. Sometimes it was just a small line under their comment like a breath. I appreciate you. Each one felt heavier than the last because it proved something I had been afraid was not true. It proved that I could reach someone. It proved that my presence could matter without me needing to perform for it. And that scared me because I began to notice how badly I needed proof. I told myself it was not about attention. I did not want people to praise me. I did not want followers. I did not even want them to know who I was. I wanted the clean exchange. I gave a sign of support and they gave a sign back that it landed. A simple loop, a controlled loop. Offline, nothing was controlled. If I bought a coworker coffee, I worried it would feel strange. If I held a door for someone, I worried they would not say anything and I would feel stupid for expecting it. If I tried to comfort a friend, I worried I would say the wrong thing and make it worse. The risk of failing made me choose silence again and again, until silence became my normal. Online, my kindness had a shape. It had a clear beginning and a clear end. A click, a badge, a thank you. Even when no one replied, I could still tell myself it counted because the system showed me that it happened. At this point, it was not about status. It was about feeling useful in a way I could measure, in a way that did not ask me to stand in front of someone and hope I did not ruin the moment. That was the problem, though. The more it worked, the more I wanted to do it again. The warmth faded fast, and I found myself searching for the next post that could justify another click, another small proof that I still existed to someone. Then I opened the coin page and stopped thinking in small numbers. Then the poster chose a number that changed the scale, 40,000 coins. I stared at the coin bundles like they were items behind glass, like I had walked into a store too late at night and nothing felt real. The smaller packs looked reasonable. They looked like something a normal person bought without thinking. But I did not click them. I kept scrolling until I saw the bigger number, the one that made my mouth go dry. 40,000. It felt like too much on purpose, like I was daring myself. My finger hovered over it and I tried to turn it into a simple choice. I told myself it was only money. I told myself I spent money on worse things. I told myself this was kind, that this was better than wasting it on something that disappeared. Then another thought cut in, sharp and quiet. What am I trying to buy? I leaned back in my chair and looked around my room like the walls might answer me. Nothing changed. The air stayed still. My phone did not buzz. No one knocked. I was alone with a screen offering me a way to feel useful on demand. I started doing math to make it feel rational. If I bought this, I could give gold. I could give platinum. I could hit dozens of posts, maybe hundreds if I paced myself. I imagined people opening Reddit and seeing an award like a small light under their words. I imagined the quick thank you messages. I imagined the clean loop completing again and again. I also imagined my bank app the next day, the charge sitting there like proof that I had crossed a line. I imagined telling someone in real life. I pictured the pause after I said it, the confused look, the polite laugh that would not be kind. I pictured myself trying to explain that I did not do it for attention, and realizing I could not explain it without sounding like I was lying. I held my breath and moved the cursor over the final button, confirm purchase. For a moment my hand did not feel like my hand. It felt separate, like it belonged to someone braver and more careless than me. I told myself one last time that this could be simple. I could spread kindness. I could make people feel seen. I could do it without the fear that came with face-to-face life. Then I clicked. The page loaded and the decision became real in less than a second. A confirmation message appeared, clean and cheerful. My stomach flipped like I had stepped off something high. I waited for regret to hit me immediately, but it did not. What hit me first was a rush, warm and bright, like I had been given permission to matter. I went back to the front page and the number at the top of the screen had changed. It was not a vague promise anymore. It was a pile of coins sitting there waiting to be used. It felt like power, and that word made me uncomfortable. I did not want power. I wanted connection. But the coins did not care what I wanted. They only offered one kind of action, and they made it easy. I clicked on a post from a person who wrote about losing their job and trying not to panic. I opened the award menu. My eyes went straight to the bigger awards, the ones I had always treated like they were not for someone like me. Gold, platinum. The names sounded dramatic, like medals, like I was claiming the right to judge someone's worth. My finger stopped again. I realized something that made my throat tighten. If I gave 1 platinum, I would feel something. If I gave 10, I would feel 10 times something. If I gave them every night, it could become a routine, a habit, a replacement for everything I did not know how to do outside my room. One purchase. Now I had the power to reward dozens of strangers. I sat there with the award menu open, and I felt the excitement twist into doubt. The coins looked heavy now, like they were not just money, but a test. I wondered if I had just built myself a new kind of cage, only this one had bright icons and thank you messages. I moved my cursor toward the first big award anyway, and my heart started beating faster, not from joy, but from the fear of how much I wanted it to work. But would anyone even notice? And if they did, what would it do to me? I gave the first platinum award with my breath held, like I expected an alarm to go off. The post was not popular. It sat in a small subreddit where people wrote about trying to stay sober. The person had typed a short update about making it through day 30. No big speech, no victory music, just a plain line about waking up and choosing not to drink again. The comments were quiet. A few strangers said good job. A few said keep going. It looked like the kind of post that slipped down the page and vanished. I clicked the award icon and scrolled through the options. The platinum sat there like a heavy coin, shiny and serious. I hesitated because it felt too intense, like I was making their moment about me. Then I remembered why I did this. I did not know how to show up in person. This was the only way I knew how to say, I saw you, and I meant it. I clicked. A small animation played. A badge appeared under their words. My coin total dropped. The change was instant, like money leaving my hand. I waited for regret again. Instead, my shoulders loosened. It felt like I had done one clean thing without tripping over myself. I did it again 10 minutes later. This time it was a post from someone who shared a photo of a handmade card they had made for their mom, even though they said their mom never showed affection back. The post was written like a joke, but I could feel the ache under it. The comments were mixed. Some were kind. Some were dismissive. I hated the dismissive ones more than I should have. I wanted to balance the scale, just a little, in a way that did not require me to fight anyone. I gave gold, the badge popped up, another drop in my coin total, another quiet release in my chest. After that, I started choosing posts the way someone chose stones from a river. Not the biggest ones, not the ones that already had a crowd. I searched for the ones that looked like a person had taken a risk by speaking. Someone admitting they felt lonely. Someone saying they had finally cleaned their room after months of depression. Someone describing how they cooked dinner for the first time after losing a partner. I did not comment, even when I wanted to. My cursor hovered over the reply box more than once, but typing meant entering the open space where people could judge my words. Awards did not ask me to explain myself. Awards did not create a conversation I had to keep alive. Awards did not make my face go hot with the fear of being misunderstood. I gave 3 awards in under an hour and then stopped, not because I ran out, but because I felt dizzy. It was too easy. It felt like I had found a door that should have been locked. I refreshed the page and watched the small red notifications dot appear. My pulse jumped at something as simple as a pixel. The first message was short. "Hey, thank you for the platinum. I did not expect that. I really needed this today." I stared at it longer than I should have. The words were ordinary. The feeling in my body was not. It was warmth, yes, but it was also a kind of pressure behind my eyes, like I was about to cry without any sadness attached. The next notification was an edit on the card post. "Whoever gave me gold, you are too kind." This made me smile for real. I sat back and let out a sound that was almost a laugh, except it came out quiet and broken. I had not made someone smile in person for weeks. Here, I did it without even speaking. That should have scared me. It should have made me question what kind of person needed this so badly. Instead, I felt lighter. I chased more of it carefully, like I told myself I had control. I opened another post, then another. I gave an award and waited. I gave another and waited. Each time I refreshed, I told myself I was only checking to see if it landed, like checking if a letter arrived. But I knew the truth. I wanted to be thanked. Not because I wanted praise, but because the thank you proved the connection was real. Offline, kindness felt like standing on a stage, and hopping the audience did not throw something. Online, kindness felt like sliding a note under a door and hearing someone on the other side whisper, "I got it." My body responded to that whisper like it was medicine. One person sent me a longer message. They said they had been having a terrible week, and they did not know why someone would spend money on their words. They said they felt seen. They said they would pay it forward someday. I read that line again and again, "pay it forward." It sounded like a chain reaction, like I had started something, like I mattered. I looked at my coin total and realized I had barely made a dent. 40,000 was not a night of kindness. It was a system. It was days and weeks of this if I wanted it. That realization did not calm me. It made my hands itch. The pattern was forming without me choosing it anymore. Give award, receive gratitude, feel lighter. Give award, receive gratitude, feel lighter. I told myself I would stop after one more. Then I told myself I would stop after the next thank you. And once that pattern started, stopping did not feel easy. After the first night, I sat in the dark with my inbox open and realized the strangest part was not the money. It was the distance. People thanked me, sometimes with real emotion, and I felt it like warmth in my hands. But they still did not know me. They did not know my name, my face, my voice, or how quiet my life felt when the screen went black. That distance should have made the kindness feel fake. Instead, it made it easier to breathe. In person, I always felt like I took up the wrong amount of space. Too much if I spoke, too little if I stayed silent. If I tried to be kind face to face, I worried about everything around the kindness. Did I stand too close? Did I smile too long? Did they think I wanted something back? Even holding a door for someone could turn into a small panic inside my head because sometimes people did not say anything and I had to pretend it did not hurt. Online, there was no door to hold. There was only a button that meant support. a badge that meant I was here. And if someone replied, the reply had no awkward pauses, no strained eye contact, no moment where I had to decide whether to keep the interaction alive or escape it. That was the trade I kept making without saying it out loud. Connection without exposure. I told myself it was healthy. I told myself it was a bridge, a practice, a warm-up before I learned to do it in real life. But the more I did it, the more I noticed that I did not want the bridge to end on the other side. I liked the part where I could be generous and invisible at the same time. When someone sent a message like, "You made my day," it did something sharp inside me. It proved I could matter. And that proof was addictive because it did not exist anywhere else. At work, I could finish a task and still feel replaceable. In a room full of people, I could laugh at the right time and still feel like a shadow. Even with family, I could show up and feel like I was watching myself do it, like I was acting the role of a person who belonged. The moments that were supposed to be real never fully reached me. But a stranger on Reddit could type a simple thank you, and it reached me immediately. I hated that, not because gratitude was bad, but because it showed me how empty I had been. I started to understand that I was not only giving awards to help other people, I was buying small moments where I felt safe being a person. I would scroll and see a post that looked like a cry for help, and my body reacted before my mind did. My fingers moved toward the award menu with a calm I never had in real conversations. I did not have to choose the right words. I did not have to guess what tone would hurt them less. I could do something clear and final. Then I would wait. Waiting became part of it, the refresh, the tiny red dot, the small rush when a message appeared, the calm that followed like a weight slid off my chest for a minute. And the worst part was how fast that calm faded. It left me looking for the next post, the next person, the next chance to feel useful again. I started noticing the other side of the trade, too. Every thank you was addressed to a stranger, not to me. People said things like, "Thanks, kind stranger," and it felt sweet, but it also felt like standing outside my own life with my face pressed to the glass. I was close enough to feel the warmth, but not close enough to be known. I could make someone smile and still go to sleep unseen. Some nights I stared at my profile page and felt a cold embarrassment. I did not want attention, but I wanted to exist. And I had built a way to exist that required me to stay hidden. I wondered what it would do to me if I stopped. I imagined closing the app, turning off the phone, and sitting with nothing but my own thoughts. No posts, no thanks, no proof. Just the quiet of my room, the quiet I had tried to escape in the first place. That was when the coins started to feel less like a gift and more like a tool I reached for when I could not handle myself. A coping tool dressed up as generosity, something I could justify because it helped others, even if the real relief was mine. To the strangers, it was a quick gift. To me, it was proof I could matter. I looked at the coin total again and realized it was still huge. It meant I could keep this going for a long time. And that thought did not comfort me the way it had before. It scared me, because I could see how easy it would be to choose this every night instead of learning how to connect in any other way. Then the question I had avoided finally formed in plain words, and it did not feel gentle when it arrived. Was this generosity, or was it a coping tool? The wave hit when I stopped trying to make it happen. I had given out more awards than I could count. Gold to a small story about someone finally calling their dad after years of silence. Platinum to a person who admitted they were scared to be alive. A few smaller awards to people who made others laugh in a bad moment. I told myself I was finished for the night. I closed the award menu. I leaned back. I waited for my mind to slow down. Then the first notification appeared. A red dot, tiny and bright like a pulse. I clicked my inbox and saw a thank you message that was longer than it needed to be. The person wrote that they had been feeling invisible all week. They wrote that they did not know why someone would spend money on them, but it helped. They ended it with a line that looked almost embarrassed. "I am going to sleep smiling. Thank you." I felt that warmth in my hands again. My chest loosened. For a moment, I forgot how quiet my room was. Another notification popped up before I finished reading. Then another. I refreshed and the screen filled in like I had opened a door into a crowded hallway. Messages stacked on top of each other. Post edits lit up with bright, grateful lines. People wrote, "This made my day." People wrote, "I needed this." People wrote, "I do not feel so alone now." I read everyone. I did not skim. I let the words land fully because I had paid for this in a way that felt more serious than money. One person replied in the comments, not even knowing who I was, and called me a guardian angel. That should have made me cringe. Instead, it made my throat tighten. I stared at the phrase like it was a name I had been waiting for my whole life. I kept refreshing. The red dots kept appearing. It became a rhythm. Click, read, breathe, click, read, breathe. Each message felt like a hand reaching through the screen and touching the part of me that always felt out of reach in real life. I felt genuinely happy, not a small, polite kind of happy, a bright, sharp kind that made me sit up straighter. I looked at my coin count and did not even care that it had dropped. I had turned a number into real reactions. I had made people feel seen. I had mattered, at least for a night. And then, right in the middle of that warmth, a cold thought slid in. None of this needed me. The messages did not say my name. They did not ask who I was. They did not want me exactly. They wanted the moment, the badge, the sign that someone out there had noticed. I could have been anyone with a credit card and a quiet room. I tried to push that thought away by refreshing again. Nothing new appeared. I waited a few seconds like the screen had only paused. I refreshed again, harder this time, like effort could summon gratitude. Still nothing. The inbox stopped moving. The post stopped updating. The bright rush that had carried me began to leak out of my body, slow at first, then fast. The silence in my room returned in full. I could hear the small sounds I normally ignored, the faint hum of my computer, the soft shift of my chair, my own breathing, suddenly too loud. I realized how tense I had been. My jaw ached from clenching it. My eyes felt dry. My hands felt empty, like they had been holding something warm and then dropped it. The worst part was how quickly the happiness turned into hunger. I could fix it with one click. I knew that. I could find another post, another person, another chance to trigger the red dot again. I could buy another short burst of meaning and call it kindness. The thought scared me because it felt true in a way I could not argue with. This was the highest point, maximum gratitude, maximum emotional impact. And when the screen went quiet, I saw what I had been trying not to see. I had built a way to feel connected that disappeared the second strangers stopped typing. When the glow faded, I sat there staring at the blank inbox and wondered what was left for me, online or offline. When the glow faded, I started thinking about how it looked from the outside. On my screen, it felt simple. Someone hurt, I helped. Someone tried, I rewarded. But I knew what people did online. They judged fast. They filled in missing details with the worst story they could imagine, and I had given them an easy one. A quiet account, a sudden pattern of expensive awards, gold and platinum dropping onto strangers like I was throwing money into the dark. I opened a few of the posts I had awarded and scrolled down through the comments, not looking for gratitude this time. I looked for the other kind of attention, the kind that did not feel warm. At first it was harmless. A person wrote, "Wow, you got platinum, nice." Another wrote, "Congrats, you are rich now." But then I saw the tone shift in a thread under a post about mental health. Someone had replied to the award like it was suspicious. Why would anyone spend money on this? Another person answered them right away. Maybe it was the poster on a second account. Maybe it was a company. Maybe it was a trick to make the post look important. I read those lines and felt my face heat up. My hand went to my neck, like I could hide behind my own skin. They were not talking to me, but they were talking about what I had done, and that felt worse. If someone insulted me directly, at least I could respond or leave. This was a crowd building a story around my action, while I sat there unable to correct it without exposing myself. I clicked away from that thread and opened another. Under a small post about losing a job, a different kind of comment appeared. Someone wrote that the award was a waste, that money should have gone to a real charity. Someone else agreed and said awards were pointless. That one made my stomach turn, because I had used the same argument against myself. The words landed like a verdict I had already feared. I tried to defend myself in my head. I did not take money from anyone. I did not ask for praise. I did not demand attention. I had picked posts that felt ignored and tried to push them up for a moment. I had made people smile, and I had proof in my inbox. But proof did not erase the question underneath it. If I had been truly confident, I would not have cared what strangers thought. The fact that their judgment hurt meant something. It meant this was not only about helping other people. It was also about me wanting to be seen as the kind of person who helped. That was the part I did not want to look at. I imagined someone finding a pattern, taking screenshots, making a post about it. I imagined the title. Something like, "Look at this account trying to buy attention." I imagined hundreds of comments picking my motives apart like they were pulling apart a dead thing to see what was inside. I imagined someone saying I was pathetic. I imagined someone saying I was dangerous. I imagined someone saying I was lying, and that I was not a real person at all. The fear felt childish, but it stayed in my body anyway. It sat behind my ribs and made each breath feel shallow. I went back to my inbox and reread a few thank you messages, trying to steady myself. Those messages were real. Those people had been real. Even if they did not know me, they had felt something. They had typed it out. They had reached back through the screen. That mattered. But then I thought about how fragile it was. Gratitude was not a shield. The same action that made one person feel supported could make another person angry or suspicious or disgusted. And if enough people decided my kindness looked wrong, the kindness itself could turn into a target. I hovered over the reply button to one message and stopped. If I replied, I risked starting a conversation I could not handle. If I stayed silent, I felt like a coward hiding behind money and icons. That was the pressure I had been avoiding. Real connection asked for more than a purchase. It asked for exposure, even a small amount. It asked for the chance that someone would misunderstand me and I would have no clean way to fix it. I clicked back to the comment sections again and watched how fast people formed opinions with no information. Some praised the awards like they were proof that the internet could be kind. Others mocked them like they were proof that the internet was fake. The same action meant two different things, depending on who looked at it. The same action could look generous to one person and strange to another. I stared at the empty text box where I could have explained myself to the community, where I could have confessed the number and the reason, and I realized that posting about it would invite the one thing I feared most: a public judgment. So if this went to public judgment, how would people rule? I noticed the pattern the next time I felt lonely, because my hand moved before my mind did. I had not opened Reddit to read anything important. I had opened it the way someone opened a fridge without being hungry. I scrolled once, twice, and my chest tightened with that familiar emptiness. It was quiet in my room, and the quiet felt personal, like it had been waiting for me to slip. Then I saw a post from someone who wrote, "I do not think anyone would care if I disappeared." My body reacted like it had been trained. I did not sit with the words. I did not think about what to say. I reached for the award button like it was a switch that could change the temperature in the room. That scared me. I hovered over gold, then platinum, and I realized I was not only trying to help them, I was trying to stop my own feeling as fast as possible. The award was not just kindness, it was relief, and relief was the kind of thing people learn to chase. I forced myself to pause. I read the post again, slower. The person did not ask for money. They asked for someone to notice them. I believed an award could be a kind of noticing, even if it was small. But I also knew how it looked. A badge under a cry for help. A shiny symbol where a real conversation should have been. I still gave the award. The moment I clicked, my shoulders dropped. The tightness in my chest eased like I had exhaled after holding my breath too long. And right there, in that physical release, I understood the personal cost. This was easier than real life. In real life, if someone looked sad, I did not know what to do with my face. I did not know where to put my hands. If I asked, "Are you okay?" and they said no, I panicked because I did not know what came next. I hated the idea of saying the wrong thing and making it worse. So most of the time I said nothing, and I carried the guilt home like a stone in my pocket. Online, I did not have to risk my voice. I did not have to be seen failing. I could do one clean action and feel like I had helped. I could avoid the messy part where a person might need more than I could give. The next day, I caught myself checking my inbox the way I used to check my phone for a message that never came. I refreshed, saw nothing new, and felt a small irritation rise in me. Not anger at anyone, anger at the silence. That was a new feeling, and it did not match the story I told myself about being generous. I had not meant to expect anything back, but my body had started to expect it anyway. The reward was not only their gratitude, it was the moment my loneliness stopped screaming. I tried to set rules. I told myself I would only award posts that were truly meaningful. I told myself I would only give one per night. I told myself I would never buy more coins. Rules sounded responsible. They also sounded like something people said right before they broke them. Because the coins were still there, sitting at the top of my screen like a private supply of comfort. Every time I scrolled past a post that made my heart pull, I felt the temptation to press the button and make the feeling go away. And every time someone thanked me, I felt that quick hit of being real to another human without having to be known. I started wondering what I was learning. If I kept practicing connection with awards, would it teach me how to connect for free, in person, with my own words? Or would it teach me that the safest version of myself was the one who stayed hidden and paid for warmth in small pieces? That thought followed me even when I closed the app. It followed me into the parts of the day where I should have been present. I would see someone in public and feel a small urge to do something kind, then immediately feel the old fear of being awkward. My mind would jump to the easier path, the one waiting in my pocket. Go online, click Be Useful, leave. I hated how fast my brain offered that escape. But I also could not deny what the awards did for other people. I had read their words. I had felt the weight of them. One person had written that they had been ready to give up and that the award made them pause. Another had said it was the first kind thing they had seen all day. Those were not fake outcomes. Even if the system was simple, the feelings on the other side were not. So I stayed stuck between two truths. I believed I had brightened days, and I feared I was training myself to need the thank you more than I wanted to admit. The stakes were not only money. The stakes were what I was teaching my mind to rely on when it hurt. That night I stared at the coin total again and felt an ugly, quiet idea form. If 40,000 coins could do this, what would happen if I bought more? How calm could I make myself feel? How often could I silence the loneliness? I did not buy more, but I did not close the tab either. I kept staring at the screen, and I realized the story was not private anymore. Not really. Not when my awards kept landing in public comment sections. Not when people kept noticing and forming opinions. Now the community stepped in, and my quiet habit started turning into a debate. I posted about it because hiding started to feel worse than being judged. I did not write a long confession. I only wrote the facts and a simple reason. I said I bought 40,000 Reddit coins and used them to give awards to strangers because I wanted to brighten days. I admitted it felt easier than talking in real life. I pressed submit and felt my stomach drop, because the moment it went live, it stopped being my private habit. It turned into a public object that anyone could hold up and inspect. The first responses came fast, and they did not land like one voice. They landed like a crowd forming circles around me, each circle deciding what kind of person I was. One group treated it like pure generosity. They focused on the outcome. They talked about how small gifts could matter when someone felt alone. They pointed out that the people who received awards clearly felt seen. They acted like the story ended there. Kind action, kind result. No need to dig deeper. Reading those comments made my chest ease because they saw what I wanted to be. A quiet person who did something good without demanding anything back. In that circle, my intent and the outcome both looked positive. But another group pulled the money into the center of the conversation like it was the only thing that mattered. They did not insult me. They sounded practical, almost parental. They warned that spending that much was risky if I did not have spare money. They reminded me that the platform profited from my urge to help. They pointed out that kindness could be exploited by systems that sold it back to you in shiny icons. They made it sound like I had walked into a store and paid extra for the feeling of being decent. Reading those replies made me defensive because I wanted to say it was my choice. Then it made me uncertain because they were not wrong. Generosity felt good, but money was not infinite, and I had used it like a bandage. Then I saw the comments that hit closest to the fear I had already admitted to myself. A third group treated my story as a substitute for connection. They did not call me bad. They did not say I should stop being kind. They just named the pattern. They pointed out that digital gratitude could start replacing real support. They talked about how short highs could become a loop where the next award was needed to feel okay again. They suggested that giving online might have been easier for me because it kept me safe from rejection. That group made me feel exposed in a different way, because it felt like they were describing my hands moving toward the award button before my mind could catch up. It did not feel like an attack. It felt like someone reading my private notes out loud. Another camp focused on caution without trying to diagnose me. They spoke in a careful tone, like they knew the internet could turn concern into shame if they were not precise. They said if I felt unable to stop, I should pause. They suggested tracking how I felt before and after giving awards, not to punish myself, but to understand what I was using it for. They recommended setting boundaries and taking breaks, not because I had done something wrong, but because habits could shift into something compulsive when emotions were involved. That group made me feel two things at once: relief, because they treated me like a human who could adjust, and fear, because the idea of needing boundaries meant there was something in me that might run without control. Then there were people who did not argue about motive at all. They argued about method. They said if my goal was to help, there were other ways to do good that did not cost money. They pointed out that upvotes could lift posts too. They reminded me that supportive comments could matter even more than awards because words stayed. They suggested sharing helpful resources or simply being present in the comment section for someone who looked like they were drowning. They did not tell me to stop giving. They told me to widen the idea of what helping looked like. That camp made me feel embarrassed because it pushed me toward the part I avoided: speaking, being seen, risking a real interaction instead of paying for one. And then there was a group that seemed tired of the whole debate. They treated the situation like a simple hobby. They pointed out that people spent money on games, streaming, and all kinds of things that did not leave anything physical behind. They argued that if it harmed no one, it was fine. They said the joy was real for the giver and the receiver. They made it sound like the internet did not need a moral court for every choice. That group made me feel calm for a moment because it offered an easy exit. It said I did not have to explain myself. I could just enjoy it. But the comments did not stay in neat categories. They blended and fought and overlapped. Under one reply praising me, someone else warned I was being played by the platform. Under a warning about money, someone else argued that small moments of hope were worth the cost. Under suggestions to comment instead of award, someone asked why it had to be either. The same facts kept getting turned in different directions until they reflected different values back at me. Same facts, different values. Generosity, safety, and connection collided. The strangest part was how quickly I started borrowing their eyes. I read the generous comments and felt like a good person. I read the money comments and felt careless. I read the substitute comments and felt small and lonely. I read the caution comments and felt like I stood near a cliff I had not noticed. I read the do good differently comments and felt challenged in a way that made my skin prickle. I read the let people enjoy things comments and felt tempted to stop thinking entirely. It was like my self-image changed every few seconds depending on what I read last. I refreshed the thread again and again, the same way I used to refresh my inbox for thank you messages. That was when I saw the shape of the problem in a sharper outline. I had not only been buying gratitude, I had also been handing strangers the power to define me. Offline, I feared being misunderstood. Online, I had walked straight into a room where misunderstanding was a sport. I tried to answer a few people in the comments carefully. I clarified that I was not rich. I said I had budgeted for it. I said I did not expect anything back. I said I knew awards were not the same as real support. Each time I replied, my heart beat faster because now I was not only an anonymous giver. I was a person standing next to the act, letting the crowd look at my face. Some people softened when I responded. Some doubled down. Some ignored me completely and kept arguing with each other. That part felt important because it reminded me that I could not control the story once it left my hands. I could see how a single choice had become a mirror for thousands of strangers. They did not only judge me, they judged what they believed about money, loneliness, and what counted as real kindness. I happened to be the example they used to prove their point. I sat there reading until my eyes hurt. My coin balance sat at the top of the screen like a quiet dare. My inbox sat beside it like a slot machine that sometimes paid out warmth. My post sat in the middle like evidence in a trial, and I felt pulled in different directions by voices that all sounded confident. Some of them made me want to keep giving because it mattered. Some of them made me want to stop because it was becoming a crutch. Some of them made me want to hide again. The crowd did not hand me a clean answer. It handed me a more honest problem. So which side was right, and what would it mean if all of them were partly right? After the comment storm slowed down, I stopped refreshing and let the silence return. Not the empty silence that pushed me toward the award button, but a different silence. The kind where I could finally hear what I had been avoiding. The truth was simple. When I gave an award to a stranger and they thanked me, I felt happy. Not because I looked good, but because for a moment I felt connected to another person without fear. I had proof that a small action could change the tone of someone's night. Those thank you messages were not imaginary. They came from real people who had real feelings, and I had touched that, even through a screen. But another truth sat under it, heavy and quiet. I had used the awards to avoid the risk of being known. I had turned kindness into a safe role where I never had to show my face. I never had to stumble over my words. I never had to see disappointment in someone's eyes. I could be generous and still stay hidden. And once I noticed that, I could not unsee it. The comfort was not free. It trained me to reach for the easiest version of connection every time my chest tightened. I thought about the posts I had awarded, and I tried to picture what I would have done if those people were in front of me. Most of the time, the honest answer was nothing. I would have looked away. I would have hoped someone louder, someone braver stepped in. That was the part that hurt, because it meant the internet was not only a place where I helped. It was also a place where I hid. I did not want to erase the good I had done by calling it fake. I did not want to punish myself for finding a way to be kind that I could handle. But I also did not want to build a life where every human moment needed a payment and a button. So I started thinking in limits instead of extremes. I could keep giving awards, but not as a reflex. I could decide ahead of time how many I gave each week, instead of chasing the feeling when loneliness hit. I could stop scrolling for pain like it was a job, and I could stop using gratitude as proof that I deserved to exist. If I wanted to be responsible, I needed to treat the coins like what they were: a tool, not a lifeline. And I could try to do one harder thing alongside it. Not a grand change, not a sudden transformation into a social person, just one small step that did not cost money. One comment where I wrote real words instead of dropping a badge and leaving. One message where I stayed present for a few minutes longer than felt comfortable. One moment in real life where I did something kind and accepted the awkwardness instead of running from it. The idea made me nervous, which told me it mattered. I looked at my remaining coin balance and felt the old temptation rise. There were still so many coins left. I could create that warm rush again whenever I wanted. I could press the button and make myself feel useful in seconds. And that was exactly why I needed boundaries. Not because giving was wrong, but because I knew how easily I could start using it like medicine. The story began with coins, but it ended with a question about belonging. I still believed a small gift to a stranger could be real kindness. I still believed online support could matter, especially when someone felt unseen. But I also knew I wanted more than being a hidden hand behind a screen. I wanted a kind of connection that did not vanish when the inbox went quiet. I wanted to matter in a way that did not depend on a purchase. So I wanted to ask you something honestly, because I still did not have a final answer. If you were in my situation, would you keep giving awards, set a strict limit, or find another way to connect? And why? Which comment camp would you agree with? And what would a healthy version of online generosity look like to you? Because the next click could be kindness or avoidance.